In one of their most satisfying wins of the year, the Villanova trio signs the New York Knicks outlast the Atlanta Hawks. We talk about it next on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? You are Locked On Knicks. I have Gavin Shaw, a credentialed media member covering the NBA, your Saturday host of the Locked On NBA podcast, and of course, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. He is Alex Wolf, editor-in-chief of The Strickland, the greatest Knicks website in the whole wide world. You can check them out on all forms of social media at thestrick.land. And we want to remind you, you are listening to the best daily New York Knicks podcast out there. This is Locked On Knicks, your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving you the most detailed insight on your favorite team 5 days a week. And be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans in subscribing on both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team. Again, 5 days a week, sometimes more. Sometimes we go absolutely crazy. But you know what? If that's not enough for you, a reminder that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introduced in the Locked On Knicks daily newsletter, the one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Knicks newsletter to get writing from Alex and I, our fantastic team of national writers here at Locked On, and of course, the latest in fantasy basketball with Josh Lloyd. We also want to remind you that today's episode is sponsored by Prizepicks. Now's the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to get the bonuses guaranteed. Prizepicks, run your game. Remember to subscribe on both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform of choice. But Alex, we're going to talk through what I thought was just in terms of my watching experience, maybe because I knew they won before the end of the game. I was a little bit behind. This was my favorite experience watching the New York, or one of my favorite experiences watching this team this entire year. Very, very satisfying to finally beat the Hawks. We'll talk about all three of the Villanova trio shining. Tom Thibodeau finally going at Trae Young, making him pay for being on the court and trying to hide on Mikal Bridges, and Karl-Anthony Towns return, how he looked in his first game back. But we start with the Villanova trio. I'll let you pick your Hawk poison. Which one do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, I mean, probably Jaylen Brunson, right? I think, we so often bury the lead and bury Brunson late in the show and he scores over 30, and it feels kind of wrong sometimes. So may as well give him the first slot today. 34 points, just absolutely decimated whoever had the misfortune of being on him in this game. 12 of 18 shooting, 3 of 5 from 3, 7 of 11 from the free throw line. Maybe the only slight blemish, but such a minor one. In such a dominant performance, and 6 assists as well. Was slinging it around and fighting through doubles really well. I think responded really well when, essentially what ended up happening. So, we're going to talk about the hunting Trae a little bit more in depth in the next segment. But I think that the big thing to me with Brunson was that, first off, he attacked the Dyson Daniels matchup like crazy, and sort of it reminded me, I was thinking about it and I was like, where have I seen this before? And it was very reminiscent of what he did a few weeks ago, a month ago. I don't know, time is flying in this season, but one of the times against the Magic when Jalen Suggs was just playing entirely too aggressive on him, he was essentially body checking him every time he was coming down the floor. And I think that Brunson sort of recognized that Daniels was trying to get away with that same sort of stuff today and just kind of said, all right, well, if that's how you want to play the game, then I'm just going to go into your body at half court all the time. And I'm going to make you commit ticky-tack fouls on me. I'm going to make sure that like you're out of this game. And he, I think, took that challenge immediately and started getting to work on that like pretty early on in this game. And just in general, especially the last foul, it was so reminiscent of the same one that he drew on Suggs late in that game against the Magic, where he brought it to half court and Daniels met him there. And then he just was like, bumped him right into his chest and basically dared, almost like left the ball hanging out there like a, a bully hanging something in front of a kid or whatever, just being like, go get it then, and like kind of left the ball hanging for Daniels to like go get, and then Daniels just like mugs him and gets the foul call. And it was very similar to like when when Suggs basically fouled him like 3 times on the play that eventually got him fouled out of the game. And Daniels, same way, was like, I don't know what I did, or crikey, I don't know what I did, mate. Like saying, it's the
10,
same
10 out of
deal.
10, by the way. That was great. That was really good. I thought Andrew Bogut was in the room. That was amazing.
Oh, don't say that.
Sorry. I thought Patty Mills was in the room.
There we go. That's a little better.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, I just think, I think Brunson really came to play in this one. I mean, it's been kind of an up and down month for him. So, you were saying maybe one of the most satisfying wins this year. I could probably throw a dart and hit a couple early in the season that were just as satisfying, but definitely this calendar year, I think this was so far the best game for the Knicks, and definitely my favorite Jalen Brunson game, where he just from the start to the finish just controlled the tempo, didn't necessarily need Karl-Anthony Towns to like pour in a huge effort, which he wasn't really able to. Seemed a little rusty with that bum thumb. And Brunson just really stepped up to the plate, I think, and delivered exactly what the Knicks needed today.
Yeah, I thought this was a really significant game for him coming in, and I was watching him closely throughout, because it's very rare you see a guy who's a top 10 player in the NBA, which I think we're both on the same page Jalen Brunson is. I think people who maybe don't have a bias towards the Knicks are also in agreement that Jalen Brunson is in that category. But no matter how good the defender, you don't typically see someone kind of get owned like Jalen Brunson did the first 2 games against the Atlanta Hawks by Dyson Daniels, where it got to a point where Jalen was like, all right, just get this guy off me, set 3 screens if you have to. I don't want to deal with him anymore, because Dyson Daniels was just bigger, faster, stronger, was beating him to spots on top of all of Jalen's usual tricks. And he owned him. And that's an issue when you need Jalen Brunson to potentially be the best player on a championship team. I don't care how good Dyson Daniels is. He can't get owned by Dyson Daniels. And Jalen Brunson just came up and just like systematically took him apart in this game. And it was some of it was when Daniels was off of him. Like he had those 2 threes early when DeAndre Hunter was in the game and on him. But then like he just kept finding ways to hurt Dyson Daniels. Like off the ball, had those 2 cuts for layups where Cat hit him beautifully. I'm going to say 2 favorite stretches. One was like midway through the second quarter, where he had a drive where he just went right into Dyson's body and just kind of shoved him off and flipped him in. And that was encouraging. It was like, all right, maybe he's just too big and strong and physical to do that too. Nope. Jalen can still do that despite giving up 6 inches. Then the very next play goes right at him again and just hits like a mid post turnaround fadeaway. And it's like, all right, you got the strength, you got the skill. A final fadeaway on him before the end of the half meant he was 7 for 9 in the first half. Just ridiculous efficiency despite having to sit a little while with 2 fouls. And then my favorite sequence of the entire game was second half, where this was just pure ethical hoops from Jalen. Just started cooking with his step back jumper, going right at Dyson. Beautiful step back. Another one where Krejci was on him, hit a step back at the elbow, and then one more over Clint Capella in the corner. It felt like he just hit this flow state that we typically only see him hit in the playoffs. I know he's been playing outside of the Wolves game really well overall the last 5 games, but just the confidence he was shooting with, the touch he was shooting with the ball, not even touching the rim on its way through. Like he was absolutely scalding. And on top of that, mixed in some really good passing, like 2 or 3 times, hit Mikal Bridges on little pick and rolls where they were trying to get Trae Young on the switch. The Hawks did a good job fighting over it, but Trae was just kind of inattentive, and Jalen over and over again made them pay for it. So I thought it was, I'd call it a virtuoso performance for him. I'm not even sure if we said it. He had 34 points on 12 of 18 shooting, 7 of 11 from the field. Oh, you did say it, 3 for 5 from 3. Just amazing.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that stands out, though, is the efficiency, because it's not like he hasn't had high scoring outputs lately.
Yeah.
But this one, I mean, I guess what was the game? Let's see, this is where long season kicking in, but the game recently where he also had the extremely efficient.
Yeah. So he's been pretty, his last 5, he was 16 of 26, 12 of 24, 14 of 22. 9 of 23 against the Wolves, and then 12 of 18. So this has been a stretch of efficiency. But before that, he really was not very efficient. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what outlier game it was. I think it was during the bad stretch where he just had like the super efficient, like 40 points or whatever. But just given the quality of opponent, I mean, I don't think it can be understated. Like this Hawks team they might not be giants, but they're giant killers this year. Like it was noted on the MSG broadcast going into this game. I believe they were 6-1 against the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. So the Cavs, the Celtics, and the Knicks, and like they have beaten the Cavs, I think, twice. I think they've beaten the Celtics twice. Like they've beaten the Knicks twice. Like they've really just kind of run the gauntlet and beaten all of these really good teams. And so this is sort of important for the Knicks because all in all, the Hawks are a little inconsistent in the fact that they're currently the 6th seed. So that would firmly line them up to face the Knicks in the playoffs if the season ended today. So, it's sort of one of those things where much like the Knicks still kind of need a statement win, if you're of that school of thought, against a Boston or a Cleveland, which they'll have some chances to do in the coming weeks here. But, even outside of that, they kind of just need some of these wins against the teams that have had their number as well and teams that they might see in the playoffs. And so I think this is a big one for going towards that as well. This is a team that the Knicks very well might face in the first round of the playoffs. And the fact that Tibbs actually kind of out-schemed Quinn Snyder, which did not seem the case in the first 2 games of this series this season, and they're still or 3 games. They've played a bunch.
This is the 3rd one against the Hawks.
This is the 3rd, and they play 2 more. I think it is. Is that what I'm thinking?
Yeah,
of?
because they had the NBA Cup game, so that was
right. So I mean, they still got 2 more against this team. So we'll see how things go. But Tibbs, I think, won this round. Hopefully, can win the last 2 rounds as well, which we should get into. So in just a moment, we're going to get into what Tibbs did that really pushed this game forward for the Knicks and gave them a statistical advantage, which involved Mikal Bridges as well as Jalen Brunson. We've already sort of hinted at it a little bit, but let's get into the X factor, which involved picking on Trae Young, my favorite possible activity as a Knicks fan. Next on Locked On Knicks.
From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bets. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs. FanDuel has got you covered. So just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Hey, what's up, guys? We are back on Locked On Knicks. So we talked through the Jalen Brunson angle. Now we have to talk through the Mikal Bridges / Tom Thibodeau angle. And Alex, if this was a gold medal, this is a bad analogy because in the Olympics everyone gets their own medal. But let's just say the Knicks got 1 gold medal for this performance. You would split it down the middle, I think, between Tom Thibodeau and Mikal Bridges, because unlike the last game against the Hawks, which basically everyone who covers this team and a whole lot of the smarter fans who watch this team was begging for, the Knicks were not taking advantage of the fact that, hey, Trae Young is guarding the guy you just gave up 5 first-round picks for and has proven at times to be a really high-level NBA scorer. Maybe you should get that dude the ball, especially when he has a 6-inch height advantage. Just put him near the basket and let him go to work. And the Knicks, whether it was because Mikal was still in his funk and didn't have the confidence to go do that, or because Tom Thibodeau just was like, no, Jalen, ISO, now ice on the other end. That wasn't my best tips. I'm sorry, guys. I'll do better next time. Anywho, they leaned into it today, and it worked beautifully. I'll stop ranting. What did you see?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the more opportunity to pick on Trae Young. So, I mean, I'll just point out, in addition to like a 6-inch height differential, like take the wingspans into effect too. Trae Young has like damn near a negative wingspan compared to his height. And Mikal Bridges has like his alien wingspan of like 8 inches longer than his height. So like, again, we want to talk about being able to just play keep away. It was a perfect matchup for it. And that's essentially what he did this whole game. I mean, just you've brought it up a lot this season, and I agree. Like the one thing that the Knicks both do really well when they're at their best and also don't do enough is generate seals on smaller opponents in the post. And I think that the thing that Tibbs needs to understand, and that maybe he finally started to understand in this one after he watched the game film from the first 2 games and was game planning this one, is like seals don't just happen from bigs anymore, and when I say seal, in case anyone isn't like in on the lingo, that's just essentially, usually it's like a big man, but it's like you kind of just create a seal around the person under the basket. So you get the ball, in the post or whatever, and then you already have them kind of soundly behind you, and then you're able to work and then get a turnaround jumper or whatever, or a hook shot or whatever the case, whatever you want to do. But it just basically generates an easy opportunity for you to grab the ball and get to work without having to deal with some of the other trappings of, normal NBA defense, where you have a guy in front of you that you have to get around, whatever. You just trap him under the hoop and then just get to go to work a couple feet away from the hoop. So Mikal did it in this one. We've seen OG do it in past games, but just taking full advantage of the Trae Young matchup. And what was good was that then that translated later to being able to generate more opportunities for Brunson too. And then in turn, generating more opportunities back for Mikal. Like they were kind of just, it was back and forth, and they were basically ping-ponging Trae Young around on who he had to guard, which is how you should be approaching going against the Hawks anytime. Like they have two, one all-world defender, one above average defender. So the all world defender being Dyson Daniels. They have an above average defender in Jalen Johnson. They have DeAndre Hunter, who is proven to be, a above average defender. You have Onyeka Okongwu, who's a good defender for a center. I mean, you're looking at a team that has consistently like at least 3 really good defenders on the floor, but they give, 30 something minutes a game to Trae Young, who stinks on that end. And so that's the guy that you really have to go after. Like we see teams try to do that to Brunson, and the Knicks tend to sort of just agree with them and send those mega aggressive doubles to help Brunson out, even if he doesn't necessarily need them, because Brunson is, for his size, an okay defender. Trae Young, for his size, not really. He's never been a good defender in his NBA career, and like there's nothing that you could really say to say like this guy can do at least this on defense. Like he doesn't have the height, he doesn't have the size, and he doesn't really seem to have the instincts on defense. So they started getting the seal on him with Mikal, and then later on in the game, they would use a quick screen, to try to get him onto Brunson, which then the Hawks started doing the thing that the Knicks usually do and sending that aggressive double to give help, which then would allow Brunson to kick it to someone else. Sometimes Mikal, sometimes Josh Hart, whatever. But it created so much offense for the Knicks. So I give Tibbs kudos. Like that was not something that the players just decided to do on their own. That was something that Tibbs definitely told them, like, do this ahead of the game. Like, go out there, target Trae Young. Let's get as much activity on him as we can. And it was really satisfying to see happen finally, because it seems like we've been kind of begging for this since like the 2020 to 21 playoffs, like Reggie Bullock, having Trae Young on him and being like, why aren't you just shooting over him? He's not that tall, and it's just something that the Knicks have never quite figured out, and now finally have, which is great.
Yeah, I thought it was about as complete of a game that Mikal played this entire season. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember. I need to go back and watch because I couldn't remember the long stretch he sat. Unless ESPN is off, he somehow only played 27 minutes, which Tom Thibodeau, listener of the podcast, let's clap it up. Thank you. 26 points in those 27 minutes. And only on 1 3. Like this, if you're one of those weirdos who like, yeah, the NBA sucks, too many threes, old school basketball, mid-range magic. Guess what? We've done a disproportionate amount of voices this podcast, by the way. I just want to note that. Mikal Bridges, like old school game. He went, 11 for 15 on twos, and they came in a bunch of different ways, like cutting to the rim, getting to his pull-up, to your point, just posting up and either getting layups, like a bunch of really nice cuts, like had a beautiful one on an inbound, had another one where he was setting a pin and screen, realized he'd be open if he just pivoted and rolled right to the rim. Like those were all great. Super crucial stretch early in the third quarter where he scored 10 points in the first 3 minutes and 14 points in the first 5 minutes. And the Hawks were like kind of inexplicably up by 8 after I thought the Knicks for the most part played a fantastic first half, and it's because Trae Young was absolutely cooking. He was 5 for 6 from 3. The whole team was shooting lights out from distance, and Mikal just kind of single-handedly came at a halftime and flipped the momentum. And that's like for all the tough stretches we've seen from Mikal this year, that is sort of the upshot with him is he can just get really hot, really fast. And then he hit what was essentially the dagger, shot clock running down, beats a closeout from Trae Young. DeAndre Hunter flies into help, and he just hits this tough pull up 20 feet away, cans it like another shot that doesn't even touch the rim. Like he was just absolutely locked in with his mid-range. And I think a lot of it, Alex, was because he got so much confidence early in this game, getting easy bucket after easy bucket at Trae Young's expense. I think we'd be remiss, though, if we don't quickly note the other end of the floor. Second half, he was good, too. I thought the first half was right up there with what he did in the first Thunder game for the best he's looked defensively all season. Like that possession where he shut down Trae Young for essentially 10 seconds of Trae Young dribbling at him and just basically held up against 6 or 7, maybe 8 different moves. And Trae eventually just had to chuck it up. It was a shot clock violation. Like that was epic. And that was not abnormal. Like he held him in check a few times. He forced the ball out of his hands a few times. I thought his effort chasing around screens was just consistently great in this game. And he set the tone. Like Trae was cooking from 3. He was just 2 for 10 from 2-point range. And a lot of that had to do with Mikal Bridges. Some of it, I don't know if you want to jump ahead to this now, if you want to touch on Josh Hart too. Some of it had to do with Karl-Anthony Towns, who was great switching on to Trae all game.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you just have to. Maybe the trick is get Mikal Bridges into a trash talk match in a game, because he was clearly jawing with Trae Young like a lot. Like they were getting after each other. Like
Jalen and Dyson too. So that might just be the secret formula across the board.
The formula is just some good natured trash talk, or maybe not so good natured. I don't know. I mean, the Knicks maybe took it a couple bridges too far because they got a couple technicals in this one. So maybe they need to just aim it only at their fellow player and only quiet enough that the rest can't hear it or whatever. But it was definitely a really standout defensive performance too. I mean, Trae Young down the stretches, game 3 of 12 in the second half, 1 of 6 from 3, only 9 points in the second half. After, I mean, even though Mikal played good defense on him on the first half, he still was 5 of 10, 5 of 6 from 3, 18 points in the first half. So he really was held in check in the second half. And that does have to do with Mikal, and also, as you alluded to, had to do with Cat, who I think had probably my favorite defensive possession of the game, probably my favorite defensive possession for him of the entire year so far on Trae Young. So we could talk about that, talk about Josh Hart and the night that he had, along with, I think, the bench having a fairly solid game once again. So lots more to talk about to close out the show when we get back into Locked On Knicks. But first, we had to let you know about our friends over at Prizepicks. Basketball season is heating up, and there's no better way to get real money action while watching your favorite NBA stars than with Prizepicks. Whether you're a diehard fan or just love some friendly competition, Prizepicks makes it fun and easy to turn your basketball knowledge into cash. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Think LeBron's going to drop 30 points, or maybe Luka's getting more than 8 assists. Prizepicks lets you make your predictions and put your money where your mouth is in just 60 seconds. I've been using Prizepicks all season, and let me tell you, I've been having a blast. Last week, I picked Jason Tatum for more than 29 points and Anthony Edwards for more than 25 points. That's the kind of action I'm talking about. And with Prizepicks flex play option, even if one of my picks doesn't hit, I could still double my money. Plus, once I hit, I get my money fast, sometimes as quick as 15 minutes. It's honestly the best way to keep the game exciting. And now's the perfect time to join. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's right. No need to win to get the bonus. It's guaranteed. Prizepicks, run your game. All right, Gavin, we're back in. Let's keep talking through this 119-110 win. Knicks over the Hawks, and Karl-Anthony Towns returns to action. His impact was definitely felt. He had an off shooting game, so that if you just were like box score watching, you might be like, oh, geez, like not a great game for him. 13 points, 5 of 18 shooting, just 1 of 6 from 3. Clearly, the hurt thumb, I think, looked like it was. Even though he wasn't fiddling with it as much and he wasn't grimacing and everything, like there's something about like when you're playing on an injury, especially one like that, that's going to affect your shooting and everything. Like in the moment, like the day that he had it occur, I'm sure that he was just like, whatever, I'll play through it. And you just kind of like suffer, but at least you're still in rhythm. And this one, he seemed a little out of rhythm, maybe like he was trying to, I would imagine, considering it's his shooting hand, he's probably trying to use his fingers more to brace the ball than his thumb, and maybe that's affecting his release a little bit or something. Either way, looked a little off on the offensive end in that regard. But defensively, passing, I mean, even just defensive rebounding, had 9 defensive boards. But like the defense, I thought looked really good. I mentioned it to end the last segment, but he had one of my favorite defensive plays, probably of his for the whole season. Maybe just I could just take away the qualifiers, just say my favorite one, period. He ends up stranded on an island against Trae Young in the corner and just completely shut him down solo. And, you just kind of were expecting like, okay, Trae's going to get around him and then he's going to, go up for some layup and Cat's going to inevitably get called for a foul because he's just going to get in his space too much. He's going to start, whatever. And yet Cat just like cut him off at the pass and then kind of got off his feet a little bit, but kept himself under control, managed to cover baseline while he was doing that. So then Trae couldn't go baseline on him. So then Trae tries to get around. Then Cat kind of shades over again, keeps him contained to the 3-point line. And then Trae tries to do a little step back and Cat just calmly, without getting into his landing space, just goes straight up and down. Trae again tries to kind of like lean into him and generate some contact and try to get it called as a foul, gets nothing out of it. And he just gets totally shut down. I thought there was just a fantastic possession by Cat. It was, one of those where you just go, wow, I didn't know you had that in you, to be completely honest. You usually seem a little too slow footed to keep ahead of a guard that's that fast and that talented with the ball in his hands. But just one play, but just sort of a microcosm of what I thought was a pretty good defensive effort for Cat in this game.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds you of what we saw from Precious Achiuwa against Tyrese Maxey. It reminds me of maybe a sacrilegious thing to bring up, but Julius Randle at his best when he would switch onto Luka Doncic occasionally, hold his own. You'll be like, all right, Julius, let's see that off the ball now. But I thought Cat, outside of getting toasted by Onyeka Okongwu a few times, had a bunch of good defensive plays. Like he had another like really great rotation where Bogey was driving in and thought he had a layup and Cat just kind of apparated in out of nowhere and forced a throwaway. Had like another play where he forced Trae Young to a really tough fadeaway on a switch that Trae ultimately missed. And you could tell Trae got that switch, was licking his lips. He thought Cat was food. And for Cat to step up and just stop him multiple times. I mean, even there was a third one where he doubled Trae and Trae dribbled it off his leg. Like who would think of Karl-Anthony Towns? Like obviously there were some threes Trae hit where Cat wasn't dropped, but just in terms of direct confrontations, like Cat going 3-0 or maybe 3-1, 3-2, like that's such a win for the Knicks. And I thought even though the offense was not great in terms of his shot making, there was just a bunch of interesting stuff. Like I don't know if we've seen this all year, but there was a play where Cat was the ball handler, to your point on Tibbs being in his bag, and Brunson and OG set stagger screens for him, and then OG rolled out of it to the rim, and Cat just sprayed it to him for a dunk, and I paused and rewound it 3 times. I was like, did I get hit in the head? Did I really just see that? So more of that. Cat is a ball handler with his ability to shoot. Bigs have to play up on him. They're not really comfortable guarding centers are not usually comfortable guarding ball handlers in pick and roll. That's why you run pick and roll. So that's kind of fun. And there was one other play that I really liked. It was when he drove to the rim off of a Brunson pass and pick and roll, and he hit Hart cutting with a hook pass over his head off a live dribble. And I noted it the other week. I'm stealing this point from someone, but we've not seen Cat be a very effective passer off drives. He's great from a standstill, right? He was diming up Brunson. He's diming up Hart. He had Precious for a dunk, but Cat off a live dribble is not something we've seen a lot. If he can incorporate that, I think it is just a really important tool in the toolbox come playoff time when other teams take away the stuff that they know he really likes to do. And they're going to try more often than not to say, hey, we dare you to drive into a triple team and score. Cat tried that a lot. It didn't really work. He didn't shoot well, but I thought that was just great. But Alex, we should touch on Josh Hart, just a typical Josh Hardy game, 14 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 7 of 12. Again, like not like in terms of like how great he's been this year. I don't know if there's one thing that stood out, but I just thought a lot of key plays and a lot of key moments, and the Knicks, as usual, probably don't win without him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, just kind of the standard, like got a number of tip-ins, or at least one big one that I can remember that I think was in the third quarter, where he followed up a Brunson shot when the game was more in the balance at that point, when the Knicks were going on their run in the third quarter and like really starting to put the Hawks away in this game, but just running with reckless abandon towards the hoop. And then I thought he played good defense. The hustle plays were all there. Had a number of times where he just kind of got in people's space and, managed to get a ball away from them, and love seeing that out of him. But also just, the efficiency. I don't know. Like, I think Hart's really he had 1 or 2 off games, starting to find himself again. 7 to 12 shooting for those 14 points. Like, that's, if he could take less than 15 shots in a game and still get you, 14, 15 points in a game, like that's really good. That's exactly what you want out of him. You don't want him having to sop up a ton of shots, but having the ball in his hands and, letting him make passes and everything else. I'm with you. It was just kind of a quintessential good Josh Hart game. There's not too much more to add on that just because it's about what you expect out of him. One guy I do want to kind of give some flowers to, though, is Deuce McBride, who in his 20 and a half minutes, which again, maybe should have been slightly more. I don't know. I mean,
he did have the 4 fouls in his first 9 minutes. So I think that was part of it. But
they might have colored it a little bit, but and it's hard to complain too much about minutes when like Mikal managed to only play 27 and a half minutes in this game and be as efficient as he was and all that. And everybody else other than OG played roughly their normal amount. So that was good. But, I thought the Deuce came in, started looking like himself a little more, particularly in the second half. The mid-range shot is back. So I really like seeing that. The fact that he was confident pulling up from mid and hitting it. The 3-point shot still needs to come back. He was only 1 of 5 there, but definitely liked seeing him. It just something looked like it was clicking more today. It reminded me more of the game the other day where it looked like things were clicking and then he got pulled too early and didn't really get to play as many minutes as we thought that he should have. In this one, you mentioned the foul trouble, so maybe that was ultimately just it. But got a little time to shine and a little time to kind of find himself again. And then Cameron Payne too. I mean, those two off the bench. Payne, again, 12 minutes and 10 points. Like he's hitting that. Like I dare not invoke this name, but it's the guy that used to always do this. Like he's hitting that like Emmanuel Quickly, like point a minute thing off the bench right now, where it's just like it's starting to feel, like I don't know, should he have a couple more minutes? And yet he doesn't always make the right decisions on defense or offense for that matter. You kind of just like try to catch lightning in a bottle. It's like J.R. Smith light, like how JR used to come in and it would be like, come on, dude, we need you to like hit a bunch of shots, like, and if you're not hitting shots, like, I don't know how much you're going to be able to play tonight, but it just had a phenomenal and not, he had a 4-point play that he himself turned into just a 3-point play by the fact that he got fouled and then decided to scream at the ref for so long that she teed up him and then gave Trae Young who did the foul, gave Trae Young a free throw on the other end. So it essentially mitigated the 4-point play that he had just caused, which was a little disappointing. But all in all, I thought another good game for Campaign. I think the bench is finally starting to take shape. If I just throw out the last 2 names that played, like Landry Shaman and Precious Achiuwa as well, I thought played pretty well. The whole unit, had some good minutes at the end of the first quarter, early second quarter, I thought, and like really kind of kept this team chugging along. And by the time all was said and done, like all of them were pretty big positives. Like Deuce and Cam were both plus 15s in plus minus. Nobody was a negative. Landry Shamet was just a net neutral in 10 minutes. Like I think maybe, especially with Mitch kind of on the way back, but this bench is kind of starting to find its way a little bit, which is good. I think it's very well needed at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just thinking the meme of like the one guy poking the other guy with a stick and saying, "Come on, do something," and that's Tibbs to Campaign is just saying, "Come on, make shots." And even when he does, he doesn't play enough. But Deuce McBride, I loved this game from Deuce, and despite I'm the one who brought up the foul thing. I just kind of want Deuce out there for 30 minutes, and I want Tom Thibodeau to find a way to make that happen because you feel good when he's on the court. And I had lost confidence in him, not in the sense that I thought he should be out of the rotation or anything, obviously, because he's just so important to this team. But it had just been so long. We had that long stretch where he was just ice cold, and it feels like he's found it again. And this game could have been way better. Like he had 2 straight threes that were halfway down and out. Those 2 come in, you look at those minutes completely differently. And even without it, like he did so many good things. And I specifically want him and Kat on the floor together, Alex. I think there's a world where one that works really well defensively, because as we keep noting, B-Ball Index has Deuce as a top 3 screen navigator in the NBA. And when you can get around to screen, that makes Karl-Anthony Towns look a whole lot better. And the Knicks were doing different things with Towns tonight and playing him at the level and blitzing, which will allow Kat, I think, to help his own case. And we've argued at the very least, if you're not going to go consistently to a more aggressive scheme, just mix it up a little bit, right? And more flowers to Tom Thibodeau. He did that tonight. Deuce McBride makes his life easier on that end. But offensively, I think they're really fun as a shooting combo together. Obviously, you get that with Jalen Brunson, but Brunson's a little bit more inclined to go downhill. They had a play where Cat set a screen for Deuce, did just like a little baby pop. Deuce hit him. Both defenders turned towards Cat, and Cat just immediately fired it back to Deuce, and he hit a wing three. Like I just think their shooting has a mutual exponential effect, and it's just so powerful and makes them so difficult to guard in any kind of two-man action. Deuce had two other nice pull-ups in the second half. You said pretty much everything I wanted on campaign. I just want to note also had that great play where he stripped Capella, ran the floor, and hit Mikal inside for a jam. And then another play where he picked off a Trae Young pass and came down, hit a three. Then the 4-point play, like late in the halfway through the fourth to put the Knicks up 8 for the first time. Just a couple great sequences. I thought, I don't know if you had any final thoughts, and if not, we could wrap it up. I just want to shout out Precious Achiuwa. I think he is before our eyes making, I don't even want to say leap, but getting back to where he was at last year. Like he is consistently now in pick and roll with Jalen Brunson, caught the ball, spraying out to a shooter. And that's not something even like 6-7 games ago he was capable of. So I wonder if the Knicks coaches are consistently emphasizing that to him. But I really liked how he looked in this game. And I think the Knicks all of a sudden, Alex, are maybe finding a bench before our eyes. And this was such a big win because, to your point, the Hawks could be a team they see in the playoffs. And that is like the Mikal on Trae thing. You cannot give Trae a hiding spot. If Trae doesn't have a hiding spot, the Hawks are beatable. If Trae does have a hiding spot, they could easily beat the Knicks in a series.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't have too much more to add either. I will just say back to back, got another game in Brooklyn. So they have to quote unquote go on the road. They just have to go to their other home stadium, play another game before they go back home, which is hilarious. They just have like no road games this month. It's a great month for the Knicks in that regard, at least, even if the results haven't necessarily been the best. But yeah, so we'll have you covered for that game. Hopefully more chances for the bench to keep finding themselves in that one. Maybe a little early garbage time. Fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes. But until next time, we'll talk to you soon to cover that Nets game and then find some things to talk about for the rest of the week because there's not another Knicks game until Saturday. Rare 3-day break after the back-to-back on Tuesday. So we'll have you covered for everything for the rest of the week. But until then, thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.